What's up everybody, JJ here. Today I've got a very special project I've been working on this week. This is going to be a part one of it because it's such an in-depth project. I want to take you up to speed on all the work I've done this week because it's so cool all that I've got working now. And while I'm at a really good 1.0 version of this project, I know it's still pretty rough and there's still a lot of features I want to add to it. So if you watching it have any thoughts on the project, maybe some good ideas, put them in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. So what is this little thing I'm holding in my hand? Let me tell you what it's meant to solve first. So the house me and my wife recently bought is 3 stories tall, and her office is on the top floor, and this YouTube studio I built is down in the basement. So with her being 2 stories above me, we would have to text each other to let each other know little status things. And I thought, hey, I'm smart enough, I can build a little device that allows us to let each other know simple status notifications. If we need more words, of course we still have our phones, those work. But for this I wanted a simple way that we could just look at it and know if the other person was in a meeting or recording a video like this, something that's sort of a do not disturb, or if they're free to talk, or another one that they're away from their desk, they're somewhere else in the house. So the goal is for these pucks to be one here in my studio and one up on her desk, and we can tell each other our status throughout the day and communicate little things like that. Another part of this system is expandability. There's 2 pucks now, but what if I wanted 10 pucks? I could just build another one with the same internals here. I could put them wherever I want, and the expandability is basically infinite. I'm going to put some chapter descriptions down below so you can skip to the sections that are most interesting to you. And I understand if the code section gets a little bit in-depth for people who don't understand coding. I will have all the 3D files on my Thingiverse, and the code files will be on my GitHub. I'll link it all in the description down below. So how does this all work? So the brains inside of these pucks are Node MCUs, very cheap Wi-Fi enabled microcontrollers, and they all communicate to a Raspberry Pi. This is running an MQTT server, so they send their messages to the server. The server distributes that message to all the other devices. So the physical design here, I modeled it in Tinkercad, which is the most basic 3D modeling software there is. Instead of creating planes and extrusions, you're just putting objects on there and then putting objects as holes on top of it. So there's certain things I could or couldn't do on there, but of course I'm still an amateur learning, so there's still so much I need to figure out about it. But I would like to put in some things, so I'm thinking magnets to hold the top and bottom together, or maybe just the top on with magnets so I could still open it up, get in there and rewire things. If one of the wires comes off, I could still adjust it. But I do like the functionality of being solid on top, solid bottom, but then transparent on the sides and the letters. I also need to figure out how to make these letters fit in there better, so that's something I'll need to figure out. On this version I tried just doing a flat plate down in there, and it was way easier to put together, but I'm still not sure which one looks better when it's all lit up. And when it comes to the code here, I coded it in the Arduino IDE. It took a couple days of coding. It's almost 500 lines of code. The hardest part was integrating all the things I wanted here. I have buttons and switches, also LED control, also an MQTT server implementation. It was super easy to get it running on the Pi 3, but then getting the messages to work correctly to sync between them. It took some finagling of data and the correct order of operations, but it is working reliably to communicate between them. So it's not the most elegant code, but it doesn't need to be immediate. These are going to be a couple floors apart, so a few seconds of delay really isn't the end of the world. I also had to implement some sort of debounce because that was one that was throwing me off. Sometimes I would press and it would update to the next color, but sometimes I would press it and it would go 2 colors ahead, and I couldn't figure out what was happening. Then I added some serial debug lines, and that proved to me that it was being pressed a bunch of times, and really should have been cycling way more than that. So I just put in some debouncing, so now every press does a single step forward through the colors. And it's nice with these being addressable RGB colors, I could theoretically put any color in there. Currently I only did red, green, and blue that it cycles through, and the switch up above does a yellow alert. I would like to put in a red alert by being you press down the buttons and switch, or some special combination that gets you into a red alert mode. That would be like if the house is on fire or someone's breaking in, red alert, hey, I need you now. Yellow alert, that's for the dog. Now let's go back to when I was putting these all together. The internals are pretty cool. So now while the hot glue gun heats up, I'm getting ready to hot glue the first 2 prototypes together. This is model 1, and this we're calling 1.1. I put this extra grid around here that holds the Node MCU in place. On this one, I haven't printed that yet, but I know with these first models and after I put them together, I'm going to learn so much from it that there's going to be more changes than just this grid in the next version I make. So I just thought I'd go ahead and put it together, test them out this week, and see how it goes. So first I wanted to attach the Node MCU to the walls here. Big couple glops. Next I need to hold the ring to the actual base here. So I'll go put a couple dots in the corners. And make sure that's accessible on the side. And then I'm going to go ahead and start gluing these LEDs in place. The first section is the J section. Second section is B. Just going to put a dab of hot glue and stick that down. Little dab on the B side. To make it easier for future removal, I think these ring LEDs, I'll just kind of push in place like that, and then close this down on top. Should be our first puck. Let me just put some dabs of hot glue in here. So that is the first one. Looks like a giant green moon pie. On to version 0.1 over here. I like to put nice big dots of hot glue like this because it's so much easier to pull off a large chunk rather than a small dot. So more is sometimes better if you know you'll be removing it later. I was being a little reckless there, and this soldered joint just came off. Luckily the soldering iron is still hot, and I can just pop it right back on. Fit the ring of LEDs down in there. Put a couple dots of glue along the rim. And that is puck number 2. Number 1, number 2, they should be ready to hook up and see if they work. But now it's time to hook it all up and prove to you that it works up to a point. So the Raspberry Pi server, you can go ahead and plug in. It's nice that the Raspberry Pi is a server, so really it just needs to be connected to Wi-Fi. It can be anywhere in the house, just so it can get some Wi-Fi, it'll still work. And then these are also connected to Wi-Fi, and since our Wi-Fi works everywhere in the house, I can put these theoretically anywhere. Well, I'm not that great at 3D design, and I'm cutting the USB plug hole a little bigger because of how it lines up in there. This didn't plug straight in. Now I cut it bigger, it's all plugged in now. So now they're plugged up, can you see that? And when I press a button on one, it changes, and then the other one changes. Press it again, it goes to blue, and that one updates. This one, there's a little bit of a delay between these pucks. Even internally, each puck, it's not the fastest response time because it needs to communicate with the server, come back, and then it updates. But other than that, this works so well. So far, already this project is so cool, and it could be used like as it is. I could put this on our desks and start using it. This switch up top, you might ask, what's that? So we recently got a puppy. I put her in a couple of these videos. Stick around to the end and you'll see her growth progress. But sometimes we have a code yellow when she has a little bit of an accident. So I want the pucks to be able to flash yellow to tell the other person, hey, the dog is peeing right now, I need some help. There is an issue where this one receives that command, but then it auto cancels it because its switch hasn't been switched. So I still need to go in there and fix the alert functionality in the code because each one will work independently, but it won't start the other one on an alert cycle. That's something where in my version 2 of this, I will definitely get the alert function working, but that's pretty much the basics of it so far. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any ideas of how I could make this better. I know fixing the 3D design, and it's just hot glued together for now. Little physical updates and also some software updates to make things run a little faster and trying to get that alert switch to work in sync between them. But if you stuck through this far in the video, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe button down below, it really helps me out. And then it lets YouTube know that other people might like this video. And if they can come and more people see it and more people comment down below, I can make this the best thing it can be. But anyway, thank you for sticking around. I hope you guys have an amazing day out there. And I'll see you in part 2.